Good day, everyone. I'm Mavic, and as part of my requirements for my course on security issues in the Asia Pacific, I'm here to present to you my research on the Aukus Security Partnership, its role in enhancing the balance of power in the ASEAN Maritime region. Let's begin by taking a look on what is the Australia-UK-US Trilateral Security Partnership, or what is called the Aukus Security Pact. It is a strategic partnership announced in September 15, 2021 among three countries, United States, United Kingdom, and Australia, with the main objective of sharing nuclear technology to Australia to help them build nuclear-powered submarines for the Royal Australian Navy. The announcement was led by US President Joe Biden, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison. With this development, Australia will become part of a number of countries with nuclear capability. Among those listed are US, UK, India, France, Israel, and China. While the Trilateral Security Pact was considered a watershed moment in the geopolitics landscape, it has earned both favor and criticism around the world. In details, the agreement committed to significantly deepen the cooperation on a range of security and defense capabilities in the Indo-Pacific region. The salient points of what has been announced are the following. Number one, US and UK to commit to facilitate Australia's acquisition of a nuclear-propelled fleet of at least 8 boats to replace the aging Collins-class diesel-electric powered submarines, which it currently has. Secondly, there will be a 12 to 18-month study to determine the exact specifications of the future Australian vessel design. Most likely, the US Virginia class and UK Astute class, as we see on the right side of the slide, are considered to be most closely to meet the new Australian needs. Third, Australia also sees that nuclear-powered subsurface capabilities would greatly enhance their deterrent capabilities, benefiting the whole Indo-Pacific region as well. The Aukus has indeed caused a seismic wave in the geopolitical sphere and is viewed by many as a paradigm shift in the regional security order. In hindsight, it is also largely perceived as a projection of US allied forces in the Pacific, reminiscent of what has happened during the Second World War. The desire for a sudden change in the nuclear-powered submarine capability for Australia has surprised the world and as such has caused a strain in the relationship between France and Australia as well. A current 2016 contract amounting to 90 billion Australian dollars with France Naval Group have to be suddenly cancelled. The cancelled engagement was supposed to build 12 conventional diesel-electric powered submarine fleet for Australia, which unfortunately will no longer pursue. China is also livid with the announcement, as they also called it extremely irresponsible and a return to an obsolete Cold War mentality. Lastly, the issue surrounding the non-proliferation of nuclear technology is alarming to many countries, and they are worried what this means because apart from the dangers of nuclear technology, it might also set a precedent to other countries with strong interest in nuclear technology. As this fuels a lot of speculation and heightens greater uncertainty, the Southeast Asian Maritime region, which is at the heart of this flashpoint, is struggling to find meaning in this pivotal announcement. So here are some of the concerns on the AUKUS Pact. What will AUKUS bring to the Southeast Asian Maritime region? Will AUKUS enhance the regional stability and contribute to a stable balance of power? Or will it lead to further unsettle the relative peace that Southeast Asia has enjoyed for decades? Can ASEAN leverage on the benefits of AUKUS so that it can ensure that the balance of power in the Southeast Asian region is maintained? Before we move on, let's take a look at the meaning of balance of power. In international politics, the balance of power concept is often used to describe behavior of states in terms of power equilibrium among competing powers. Some essential points we can consider from this theory in our attempt to understanding why Australia embarked on such a gargantuan deal amidst the risks and challenges. First point, the balance of power theory suggests that states may secure their survival by preventing any one state from gaining enough military power to dominate all others. This we can see happening right now with this new alliance formation we call Aukus. Secondly, states can pursue a policy of balance of power by increasing their own power, as when engaging in an armaments race or in the competitive acquisition of territory, or by adding to their own power that of the other states, or as when embarking upon a policy of alliance. This we can see as an underlying principle we can very well apply on this whole formation of the AUKUS alliance. Meanwhile, while the debate is rooted on whether AUKUS brings stability or cause further disruption, let's take a look at some of the reactions by some Southeast Asian countries. Indonesia expressed their deep concern on the power projection and the great power competition they can see happening in the region. Malaysia also raised their concern as the pact may trigger an arms race and cause imbalance and further provocation in the region. Thailand also reiterated the significance of the Treaty of Non-Nuclear Proliferation, particularly in the Southeast Asia. Their prime minister even delivered a speech in the United Nations where they reiterated the adherence to the Treaty of Non-Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. Vietnam, on the other hand, response is marked by careful balancing because of their strong economic dependence to China, as well as being one of the strongest claimants in the South China Sea region. In a statement in September, Vietnamese spokesperson Le Phi Tu Hang emphasized that nuclear energy must be developed and used for peaceful purposes and serve socioeconomic development, ensuring safety for humans and the environment. The Philippines and Singapore, meanwhile, are more welcoming of this development. In a statement by the Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin, he said that AUKUS enhances an ASEAN near friend and allies' military capacity to respond in a timely and commensurate fashion to a threat to the region or a challenge to the status quo. Singapore, meanwhile, also mentioned that the move greatly supports ASEAN centrality. Meanwhile, this presentation will focus on AUKUS capability in further strengthening the region. So let's take a look of an excerpt from Dr. Colin Ko, an esteemed scholar from the Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies. In one of the statements that he mentioned during a discussion in the Southeast Asian Maritime Capacity Building, recent implications in the Philippines virtual forum hosted by Asia Pacific Pathways to Progress.
That AUKUS is very likely going to augment the existing hub and spoke alliance system. It is not meant to replace the hub and spoke alliance system. Rather, it forms part of that system. And broadly speaking, is going to become part of the regional architecture. And given the existing statements that were being put out by the Australians and the UK and the US, it's clear that they are still endorsing ASEAN as the driver of the architecture. So ASEAN centrality is still respected.
So what will AUKUS bring to the Southeast Asian maritime region? Let's take a look of what Dr. Colin Ko has mentioned in his previous statement. He called it the emergence of the coalition of the willing. The new alliance, the countries that make up AUKUS, and the countries that make up the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. It's a security forum that is formed by 4 countries, US, Australia, India, and Japan, are complementing each other and are complementary in giving Australia a wide berth of strategic options in its pursuit of its interests in the Indo-Pacific. And therefore, it benefits not only Australia, but most of the countries in Southeast Asia. Secondly, the fear that it will lead to an arms race will most likely not happen, according to Dr. Colin Ko, because of the following points. Number 1, Southeast Asian states are resolute in their stand against the proliferation of non-nuclear technology as enshrined in their Zone of Peace, Freedom, and Neutrality and Southeast Asian Nuclear Weapons Free Zone. Both these declarations have been adhered to for decades now. Secondly, Australia has also committed to adhering to the safeguards set by the International Atomic Energy Agency, and in this endeavor, ensuring that no nuclear weapons will be created. Another point is that Southeast Asian countries will have to rely on AUKUS, particularly on the naval capabilities, because at this point, they will find it hard to prioritize acquiring these naval assets, especially that most of the countries are struggling to bounce back from the economic downturn during the pandemic. So in the next few years, we don't expect Southeast Asian countries to be acquiring new naval assets because everybody's just preoccupied to recover from the downturn of the pandemic. And then lastly, ASEAN centrality is still the main driver of the region's security architecture. There is no dominance or no undermining of forces because the announcement has explicitly mentioned deference to ASEAN centrality in keeping the order in the region. Lastly, we can also expect that the minilateral options such as the Quad and the Aukus will continually be sought to ensure peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. Overall, here are some of the key insights we may gather from all the reactions, responses, and criticisms about the AUKUS development and how it will enhance the balance of power in the regional security order of maritime Southeast Asia. Number one, it elevates Australia's role from a middle power to a regional power with strong allies. It puts Australia in a significant and balanced role in keeping the region stable. The credibility and reputation of Australia is very important as a non-aggressive state because it sort of puts a level of ease among countries such as their neighboring Southeast Asia. Secondly, AUKUS fulfilled the gap that ASEAN has failed to fulfill in the last decade. The waning ASEAN centrality, as it is called, has failed to come up with a standard course of action, such as the conundrum in the Declaration on the Code of Conduct in the South China Sea, which should have been signed by ASEAN and China. This discussion has been ongoing for years, but there has been a delay, and this continued delay has prompted great powers to deploy a parallel support to ensure stability in the region. As such, it is also a wake-up call for ASEAN to ensure that stability will be maintained in the region. Therefore, they have to revisit their strategic goals and come up with a unified, cohesive stand to ensure that relative peace and order is maintained with ASEAN at the helm. Lastly, the decisive gains in emerging disruptive technologies, cyber capability, artificial intelligence, and even quantum technology is beneficial not just for Australia, but for the whole region as well. Something that perhaps ASEAN can also leverage in different sectors such as security or technology. So to end this presentation, I would say that it's too early to make a concrete assumption of AUKUS as the situation is fluid and ever dynamic. It is imperative for us Southeast Asians to look into how this development can support us, especially now that the region is preoccupied with the impact of the pandemic and may not be focused on issues of security surrounding the region. The AUKUS somehow helps us not to be blindsided by aggressive forces which may take advantage of this pandemic downtime for countries in Southeast Asian maritime region. So that ends my presentation. I hope that you gain some new insights. Don't forget to send in your comments or suggestions in the comment box. Feel free to send in your questions and comments as well. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Thank you.